G'day folks and welcome to Australian UFO Sightings official podcast. I'm your host Anthony Goodall and you're listening to Encounters Down Under. Here we invite guests on the show to tell us about their encounters with aliens and UFOs, where most of our episodes were streamed live from our Facebook page, which gave listeners the opportunity to ask questions to our guests regarding their encounter. If you have had an encounter and would like to be a guest on the show, please get in touch with us. You can send us a message through our Facebook page, Encounters Down Under, or send us an email at australianUFOsightings@outlook.com.au. Be sure to join us on Facebook and share with your friends and family to help us grow, and hopefully encourage others to come forward with their encounter. If you're an iTunes listener and a fan of the show, why not give us that 5-star rating and review, and you could have your review featured on the podcast. But enough of that, let's get into what you've been waiting for. So kick back, relax with your favourite beverage, and enjoy the show. G'day Jane, how you going?
Good. How are you?
I'm going great, thanks. Thanks for joining the show there. It's absolutely fantastic having you on tonight. Been meaning to get you on the show there for a while now, so finally got you on, which is absolutely great.
Thanks, Anthony.
Just a bit of a forewarning for everyone. Jane does have a bit of a thunderstorm going on in the background there, so you will hear a bit of thunder and whatever's going on. So if we do lose power from Jane's side there, we'll try and get her back through another way there and figure out an alternative there to get her on the show again and continue on. So just letting you know, if it does drop out, yeah, that'll be the reason why. So look, let's get into it. Now, Jane, you've had a fair few experiences throughout your lifetime there, like going from your early childhood, I believe, and it's pretty much just escalated and you've gotten yourself involved somehow with these
that escalated. It goes your whole life. My first memory is as a toddler, and so in a cot.
Yep.
And it just, it goes on forever until you die. And it's obviously, there's more of it in your breeding years, trying to think how to put this politely. And clearly I'm not a breeder anymore, but they still seem to take me from time to time. So there's other things. It's like, it's the same as any other science program that we might have on Earth. So, it's controlled. And they take us all at certain ages and do certain procedures and certain tests. And I think it seems to me, in my experience, I'm only a witness, not an expert, that after we're useful for breeding, they take us up there to teach the Humalian kids how to be human. And a number of women have said similar to me too, that I've met over time.
Yeah, fair enough. So do you want to just run us through your earliest experience there and sort of like bring us through your life whilst you're getting involved with this?
There's been a lot of stuff out there, and some people would have already heard my story, so I'll try and summarise it for you.
Yep.
But as a toddler, so the first experience I remember, obviously there are experiences that I don't remember, but this one, I remember waking up in my cot, which was white painted, putting my hands up on the bars and pulling myself up. So I was that age, toddler. And I could see this man with big cow eyes, I used to think they were, and I put my arms up, let him pick me up. So I seemed to know him, and he said to me, "I'm like your grandfather." And then I saw a white tunnel of light go up through the ceiling, so an elevator, if you will, but futuristic version. And we stepped into that on his hip, and we just floated up. And it felt like being in water, but we could breathe. So it was somewhere in between air and liquid. I'm sure they have a lot more elements, a lot more physical states than we do. But anyway, we just floated up in that, and then I went through the ceiling. I don't remember seeing the ceiling that time, but I remember it in other times, and I'd sneeze and I was in the ceiling. So it was a physical experience, not a spiritual one. And then we'd just go through the hole, or a white light in the bottom of it, a round ship would open up, we'd go up into it, we'd step off to the side, and he put me down. He is Graham. I call him Graham. He had to have a name. And then in the ship, there really wasn't much there. There was like a levitating table in the middle of it. And I remember being just laid down on that. And then he put his hand over my tummy, my abdomen, just like that. And then in the air, remember I'm a baby, so in hindsight it's a wonderful thing, but all I could see was pictures in the air. So now I know they were my organs. So it was like a scan. And he has a microchip in his hand. I've asked him to explain that. So it's the same as our ultrasounds or CAT scans or MRIs. Only it was, guess, a hologram is the best way to
Yep.
describe it. I remember having blood taken, and I remember it was the left elbow, so I mean, it's that clear to me. But I didn't feel a needle prick. I felt a sucking. And again, now I'm older and have been able to ask questions. I know they were taking my blood. And then he took me back down, put me back in my cot. I remember seeing my mum in the bed beside me, and she didn't wake up. And that was that. And then I had that dream. All my life I've had that as a repeated dream, and I just could not work it out. But anyway, now I'm older.
Was this like the same sort of recurring dream, or the same thing happening all the time, or was it sort of different little snippets, scenarios kind of thing?
No. That's one experience, one physical experience.
Yep.
And I was a toddler. But all of my life I've had that experience. I dream about it.
Okay, so it's a recurring dream of that same
It's a
experience.
recurring
Okay.
dream. So what happened wasn't a dream. What happened was real
Yeah.
and physical.
No, that's all good. That's fine.
Yeah.
So, what do you think they might have been doing in this process?
Well, it was clearly a medical examination to see if I was normal and useful for their program. Again, remember, I've now had the opportunity to ask this Graham questions, and a lot of them, the ones I'd thought of. So I have a bit more understanding of it now at this age, obviously, than I did as a child. But they told me they were like doctors, and they didn't do anything to hurt me. They were kind to me and gentle. I guess it was like taking a child to your GP.
Yeah, fair enough. That would have, like, how are you feeling at the time? Like, a bit scary, a bit uneasy?
No, not
or like...
that age. I wasn't scared at all. I seemed to know this man.
Yep.
It was like, I don't know, a friend of your mum's saying, get in the car with me and I'll take you to school. But you knew them, so you're okay to get in the car with them.
Yeah, so you got a bit of trust there,
Yeah.
built up over the years and time. Yeah, fair enough. So, obviously, these experiences you've been having, like, as a childhood growing up, sort of things. But did you have any, like, sort of more observable sort of experiences during this time?
Yeah. So I'm now 60, nearly 61, and they've not stopped. They have gaps. You know, I might see a lot of UFOs and be taken quite a few times in one hit. You know, maybe a few nights in a row or for a few months, and then they'll stop for a while, but they'll always come back. So the next experience was that I remember. I know there's a lot I don't remember. I was about 8. And I was scared. This is the only one I was scared, which is understandable. Being a child, I think. I knew they were coming. The heart was racing. I was terrified. They were coming. There was no logical reason for me to know this.
Yeah.
But anyway, they did. And they put you to sleep, which is just like sedation. And they must have done that. But I'd say that I was hard to put to sleep because I was so wound up, so frightened. Anyway, so I must have gone to sleep at first, and then they take you up, and I woke up just under the ceiling, and I screamed, and then I heard a voice say, she's not supposed to wake up, and then I went back to sleep. So that's the only time I was frightened. Every other time I've known what was going on, and I've actually liked seeing them.
Yeah, okay. So do you think it was the same beings that were taking you at that time?
Absolutely. Yeah,
It's just a bit of a mishap on that one.
Yeah. There's been a few mishaps. I was asleep on the lounge one day recently, and they came and they got me, and Grandpa Graham's now old and frail, and he used to pick me up every time, so it was easy. We'd have a giggle. He knew me and I knew him. But this person, who was still a great man, I didn't know him. I was halfway up and I woke up and I screamed, not because I was afraid, but because I was startled that I was in the air, which I think is fair. Yeah. Anyway, he panicked and dropped me, and I actually hurt my ankle that day.
Oh dear. So a bit of double banger on the ankle, was it?
It's like, you can't expect me not to scream if I wake up in such an unnatural situation. And it's not fear, it's startled.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. No, that's good. That's really amazing. It's like, especially for you, like growing up in that sort of situation where others have like sort of been getting randomly taken, you've done quite well to sort of adapt to the situations that have been put forward to you.
Yeah, I think I have too. I've had to go through, I've had to take myself through it. There was no one to talk to. I didn't expect to be believed. I didn't know I wasn't the only one until the internet.
Yeah.
I really thought it was just me, but clearly it isn't. And I had to grieve for the 3 babies that were taken, and I had to work out in my head what was going on. And But also what helped is I'm a retired nurse, but when I was a student nurse, I worked with Victor Chang. Do you remember that name? The first heart transplant doctor.
It rings a little bit of a bell.
Well, he kind of took me under he's dead now, but he kind of took me under his wing, and I didn't know why. I was just an ordinary student, really. So there was a whole team of doctors, but he said to me, and that's another very long story, that I had the blood profile of an astronaut, and clearly I wasn't an astronaut, so they believed I was an alien abductee. Now that's with me not telling anyone anything.
Wow.
So they showed me some medical research that was going on over 3 or 4 years that they told me had come from aliens. So at that stage, yeah. So, and some of those things are here now, but when I saw them, they didn't exist and there was no concept of them on Earth. But for example, IVF, I think that's pretty obvious. That's what they're doing with their breeding program. Yep. Fibre optic cables, they didn't exist before, I don't know, early 80s.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, don't quote me, but somewhere around then.
Yep.
Organ transplants, they came from aliens. And it was explained to me while they showed me that it came from aliens. And they took me, the principal of the nursing school took me and a couple of other girls into a room that wasn't labelled, that was hidden at the back of the hospital. It's probably still there. And it was like a really old medical library that you'd see on an old-fashioned black and white movie with samples in jars. Anyway, and she didn't say anything. I thought, what are you doing here? And I walked up and there was an alien in a jar. And I went, so what's that? And she said, yeah, we knew you'd go straight for that. That was the point of the exercise. So here's a physical, fully alien baby, fully developed, full term, in a jar of formaldehyde in front of me, and there are other witnesses on Earth.
Yeah,
and they thought that I could answer their questions, but I couldn't at that stage. I probably could now.
Yeah. So what was the purpose of the whole test thing that they were doing for you then? What was the go with that?
Well, they just wanted to see how I'd react. They were just like checking me out to see how much I knew.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I knew something, but honestly, if I could go back in time, I could now answer their questions.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So yeah. What were these beings looking like? Like, are they the typical sort of alien-looking thing, or a bit different?
Yeah, stereotypical grey, but not the way people draw them. They look as different to each other as you and I do.
Yep.
So they've got different shaped faces, different heights, different body types. But basically, overall, they're basically skinny and long arms and legs, and they've only got 3 fingers and 3 toes. They've got a thumb. So.
Yep.
And they've got, their skull is kind of square at the back and big and very pointy little chin. And then their eyes take up that much of their face. They have a nose, but it's not like ours. It doesn't have like a hood. And their mouth is a really tiny little slit.
Okay. So when they talk to you, are they talking through their mouth, or is it like a telepathy sort of thing?
It's telepathy. They can't... I can't form the words. It's not articulate. Their voice box is different to ours, like mine is different to theirs. But they have a technical translator in their microchip. They can talk any language. They seem to pick up on your own style of speech. And especially Graham, after knowing him for years, he'd sort of, they don't normally have a sense of humour, but he did. We had a really good giggle. So it was telepathy. But, you know, I can be telepathic with some humans too. Not all, but some. So it's not like you're imagining voices, as in, say, schizophrenia. It's they're pushing it into your mind, and you know it's not your own thought. And it's logical and it's a conversation. So, yes, they do use telepathy. And out of all the aliens I've met, and there was a situation where I met quite a number of different races at a meeting, some speak telepathy and some speak properly with their voice. So it's not a universal thing. It's just that race.
Yeah, okay, that's absolutely amazing. So, like, what are the other alien races that you sort of met? What are they sort of like? You know, people mention like reptilians, or you got the Nordics. I think anything like that. No.
I've never seen a reptilian, honestly. But they're all different. But they're all like human-like or grey-like. There seem to be only 2 main types.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, Nordics, blondes, everything. I mean, I felt a bit lost because I knew I was the only human in the room, but there are other people who would have passed as humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you like come across anyone that's had the same sort of experience as you, like in the same sort of environment, I should say, like like a friendly sort of environment being taken up and
Yeah, I
continuously
have.
being taken?
Yeah, since I sort of came out of the closet,
Yeah.
I get people contact me all the time. I imagine a lot of us in this situation do, but so many I couldn't count. And the basic underlying theme is Me Too.
Yeah.
And so their stories are not identical to mine, but they're pretty similar. And they've got elements like the ages that they were taken and the things that were done to them, and the fact that the women were used for breeding, and they don't seem to take men as much, which is a shame, because they show us the babies afterwards, and that doesn't seem to happen as often with men. I've actually only heard of that once.
Yeah, so how does that make you feel though, like knowing that you've been a mother
Uh,
to these what do you hybrids you call them?
yeah, well, it's I love them. I feel the same way about them as I do my children. I think about them all the time. I obviously can't talk about them, or people would think I was nuts.
Yeah,
And
unfortunately.
but I pray for them. I think about them when I go to bed. I love them. And you can't make up mother love or parent love. Father love's the same. I mean, they just don't seem to get the difference between the sexes in humans. But it's not something you can imagine up or feel for something that's a figment of your imagination.
Yeah.
So I feel sad, angry that they've taken them, angry that I didn't get to see them grow up, grateful. It's all confusing. Love, positivity towards them, desperately want to see them. No, it's not their fault. You know, all of those things that you could imagine, I feel. And there are days that it's really hard, frankly.
Yeah, I could only imagine, to be honest.
Yeah, I won't pretend it's not. And when I do an interview like this, my purpose of doing it is really just to help others going through the same thing. Because afterwards I feel quite re-traumatised talking about it like this.
Yeah,
But it's got to be done, because it's got to come out in the open. It's just the truth has to come out.
It does. And like, what's the purpose for not sort of coming into the public with this sort of thing? Like, why are they so hidden on the agenda of what they're doing?
Well, I don't think it's them. I think it's us. I think they'd be happy. But also think about Americans and their guns.
Yeah, always attack first, ask questions later.
Yeah. I mean, for me, and probably for you, I think most decent people, maybe even most Aussies, we see a ship crash, it's like a car's crash. We're going to go up and help.
Yeah.
There's no way we're going to shoot them. But other countries, and unfortunately not everybody's good, would either ring the government so that they could take them away and lock them up, or shoot them, or run, you know, that fear reactions. They're people like us, body, soul, whatever you want, culture. They might look a bit different, but so do we.
Yeah. So just making me think of that, their agenda. So what exactly is their agenda by taking
their agenda?
Eggs or whatever.
Again, I'm no guru. I'm just a witness, but I've asked questions. And if I have asked the questions, I'll know the answer. If I haven't asked the question, I won't. But the whole purpose of it is that their planet died off, much like we think Mars did and Earth may have before. And they knew it was going to happen, so they built this massive mothership, which is like a whole artificial planet, but which I've been in. It's just humongous, so that they could get away. So I like to call that Noah's Ark, because it is only a spaceship. However, living in space over a number of generations, they lost their ability to reproduce. They became infertile. So they started working on fertility issues medically. They are ahead of us, but I think they're only like, I don't know, 100 years ahead of us. I don't think they're thousands of years ahead of us technologically. And they developed IVF, or donor eggs, or donor sperm, and fertilising in a test tube. I mean, they don't use a test tube, but they're equivalent.
Yep.
And then implanting them in a human surrogate, if you like. But the thing is, we didn't give consent. Okay, there's where I get angry. There was no consent. This is like being raped. And I don't know why I love them, but I do.
Yeah.
They're kind about it. They are kind. They're never cruel. And they do their best to make you comfortable and answer any questions. But it's not right. There's no way, I don't care what anybody says, I would consent to having 3 babies taken from my uterus. And each time that's happened on Earth, I've had to have the surgery. You're a married man. I mean, it can be uncomfortable for some people, but I've had to have D&Cs after what appeared to be a miscarriage. There was a fetus on an ultrasound, and there wasn't a fetus on the ultrasound. But anyway, I had to have repairs. So and there were positive pregnancy tests. There's a lot of evidence. So I did have an investigative journalist look right into me and check out every angle, and she couldn't find anything against what I was saying, and she could only find evidence that it happened. So I know that can be checked out. So they do that they also want to live here on Earth, but they can't quite. The environment's not quite right. They can't breathe here for more than a couple of hours, as we can't breathe there for more than a couple of hours. I feel sick when I come back. Their environment is colder than ours, so their body temperature is lower. So we would die of hypothermia in no time up there, and they would die of heat exposure here. So what they want to do is adapt to the environment, and the best way to adapt to the environment is to become us. So if you have a Negro man and an Asian woman, or it doesn't matter, but two different races breed, the child looks like both of them. They might have very dark skin if you're lucky, and then they can adapt to the sun. So it's really just about that. It's about surviving here on Earth. And apparently there are a lot of Humalians, as I like to call them, on the planet walking around us already. And I think, I walk down the street and think, oh, there's one. And they'll look at me and I'll look at them, and there'll be some sense of it. They liken that to the Aborigines, how they recognise each other even if they look white.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's that sort of thing. So that's the purpose, so that they can live on this planet unencumbered, unattacked. I think we've got racism issues anyway, haven't we?
Yeah, it's everywhere, unfortunately.
So I think it's going to be really difficult, but I dream of, envision, hope for a future where Humalians will be working at the coffee shop I've just ordered coffee for, or will be my doctor.
Yeah.
Or be the nurse, or, and I think it'll happen. I think I'll be dead, but I think it'll happen.
Without a doubt, it'll be unfortunate. You won't get to see it happen. I don't think a lot of us will see it in our lifetimes, but I understand what you're saying, though.
In my lifetime. It might happen in my lifetime, but humans are racist, and if we're racist, we're going to be, I like to say they're another race, but they're not quite. They're not a different species either, because they're too much like us, and they are compatible with us biologically, but they're not the same as humans. The same as humans in their personalities and their way of living, and they've got families and culture and things they like and things they don't like. And so, yeah, and they can breed with us with a bit of help, a bit of medical help. So That's the purpose. And then they take these babies, and they're doing it all over the planet, and there are, I don't know how many, but at least thousands, probably tens of thousands of men and women being taken in every country right now as we speak, to be used for fertility experiments, so that they can breed their half hybrids and let the ones that can't, you don't know which DNA you're going to get. So the ones that didn't end up looking human enough have to go back and live with them, and the ones that live human enough and can survive on the planet come back with the parents here.
Yeah, okay, wow, that's amazing.
So we still have, the babies still have a mother and a father, human.
Yeah.
It's like a third parent, DNA spliced in.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty incredible that they've managed to do that to sort of sustain their life and their species, I suppose.
Well, there's another reason. Graham said to me that all their knowledge, like we have books, computers, whatever, but all their knowledge is on their DNA. They reckon ours is too, we just haven't worked out how to access it. So our ancestors' knowledge and memories, well, mine are on my DNA and yours are on yours. We just can't quite grab all of them, except, there might be snippets. So he said that they need to continue their knowledge. They know too much and they'll lose it.
Well, that's one thing too. So wouldn't that be like, obviously they're a bit more advanced than us. Wouldn't they have the technology to sort of be able to store that somewhere, like of their history? So like we do, like a, I don't know. Like,
they do. On this mothership that I went on, Graham took me to a room. He's obviously the boss of the program because they all bow to him, and I felt quite privileged being in there. They weren't bowing to me, so it was pretty amazing. And he sort of wiped his hand in front of the door, and here's this microchip operating the door again. And we go in, and there's all these levitating tables that look like a science lab. And he said the walls are, think slides, like in a lab, 2 glass slides with blown in between, only much thinner and not that, but similar concept, right? All over the walls, which was stories high, was everybody's DNA including animals and plants from all over the universe. That's what they're doing. They're collecting samples of everything. Like our astronauts did on the moon, are on Mars. We're just right at the beginning. So, yes, there is a massive library, but what happens if something happens to that?
Yeah, no backup storage or something like that.
Well, that's the
Back it
backup.
up, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's an awful lot of work to lose. So, if it's lost. So, yeah, if you're a grey, you'll know how to access it on your own DNA.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So did they mention like how far they had travelled to get to us at all?
I didn't. I'm not good at numbers and distances anyway, and I didn't ask that. But definitely out of this galaxy.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So even
been
out of
a
the
long
galaxy.
place.
Okay. Wow.
There's way more planets than we know. I mean, obviously we've discovered an awful lot just in the last 10 or 20 years, but there's heaps more. And they tell me that so many of them are inhabited. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm surprised they sort of picked us out of all places. Like, if there's so many to choose from, did they mention like why they picked us?
Yeah, because it's beautiful. It's got the resources. It's got water. It's got iron. It's got gold. It's got food sources. Lots of plants. It's got animals. It's a pretty special planet.
It is. It is a wonderful planet, and unfortunately, humans decide to go and destroy every single inch of it when they can. But it still has its beauty, whatever's left there of it. So I don't blame them.
No, but also we're not the only planet they're doing it with. That's the other thing. There are other planets that they're interbreeding with so that their people can live there. So really, the whole universe, the planets that are more advanced than us, are very multicultural. We are so far behind. We're in kindergarten or not even.
Yeah. So I'm going to put like a big speculation out here. Do you think they could be doing this to sort of like sort of take over and sort of long process of invading in its own way?
Well, that's the fear, and that's a very human fear. I don't believe so. I could be wrong, but not from what I'm seeing. I think they would share it with us, not take it over.
Yeah.
That's why I said it's a combination of anger and love and gratitude and resentment and all of those opposite emotions, because it's a privilege to be part of it as well. But yeah, there's no way I'd let them take my children. I just wouldn't.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. It sort of just makes me think like humans are good for it themselves. They'll think they're doing the right thing by, sort of trying to take over a certain area, thinking they're doing the right thing by it, but in a sense trying to do it for their own benefits, if you call it that.
Yeah, well, the Greys are doing it for their own benefits too, let's face it, but they're exchanging it for technology. I do think, I know we're being told, and no doubt correctly, that aliens have been around for millions of years, and I'm sure that they have, but this particular program did start with Roswell, and they started with junior soldiers, mostly in the army, but any of the forces that no one would miss, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But lists of names of unknown soldiers, and they were usually really young, and they were given permission by our American government, who think they're the leader of the world, but they're not, to take these soldiers and use them for breeding experiments. So that's what happened. And my biological father was, in fact, in Iceland in the English army in 1947.
Yeah.
Or for a couple of years anyway.
So he could have been involved somewhere.
Yeah, and I don't really know any more than that because I didn't grow up with him, but it just, every time I find another piece of the jigsaw, it's like, aha, that bit too,
Yeah, because there is talks of where, like, the people who do get experience like constant abductions there's talk of like a blood contract. I'm sure you would have heard that before.
Yeah, I like to use my own lingo. I'm not into that sort of thing.
It's a horrible way to sort of put it.
It sounds awful, and I don't think they have any ill intent, to be honest.
Yeah, but either way, there's some sort of like contract there that gets arranged throughout one family member's life there, and they agree for their offspring, which I find is a bit harsh and rude in its own way.
That. I think blood contract sounds like the mafia, and I'm out to kill you.
Yeah.
I think it's the DNA. So my biological father's DNA, and it may have gone back further than that, but we'll just start there.
Yep.
And then I've inherited a bit of grey DNA from him. And then my children have inherited a bit from me, but they've also, if they're taken, we'll leave that out, my Earth children.
Yep.
Then they would be getting more, and each generation has more and more grey DNA. Now, when I was a baby, my non-believing parents described me as having a pointy head, 2 bumps on my head, eyes that took up half my face, and no mouth and no nose. You just described a grey. So, I mean, I don't look like that now, but as a baby, when I was born, that's what I looked like.
Yeah, that's actually sort of something I was wanting to bring up earlier too. It was like, how did your parents feel? Like, surely you would have brought up to them going, all this sort of stuff's happening.
It's awful, and I don't want to go too far into it. They're not supportive. They're against me. They don't believe it, but they don't believe in life on other planets.
Yeah.
Full stop. They believe that humans are the only ones, and it's not possible. Yet, everyone else that I ever meet seems to believe me.
Which is a good thing.
Yes, it is. And apart from that, I actually do have some evidence, quite a bit of evidence.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome that you found a lot of support down the track there. It's unfortunate that your family didn't seem to want to help you in the situation, but
I've got one teenage granddaughter that is aware of it all and fully supportive. But I really don't want to talk too much about them because they're my kids and they don't need to be brought into it.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But my family of origin, I mean, aren't supportive.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's what I was sort of getting at.
Yeah.
Because I suppose it was sort of that time too where that sort of topic was frowned upon or shunned away or criticised, and
well,
put us into the loony bin.
I learnt real fast not to say anything. But and there is a God, but God sent me the right people. I mean, I got sent Victor Chang, who took me under his wing. I got a high school science teacher, who's also now dead, who was an alien abductee, who had a near-death experience. I just met the right people, so it just really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So all throughout my life, I've met the right people. So
no, that's good. We need a lot more of people with that sort of support there for people who do go through these experiences there, because unfortunately, a lot of people just want to seem to continue to laugh at this whole topic when there's so much to sort of fathom with this sort of topic, and it just continuously just gets shunned, criticised. The stigma behind it is horrible.
Ridiculous. Well, the mental illness does exist and hallucinations do exist, but there's a very big difference, and it's not hard to tell the difference if you talk to them properly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's something that we I know you yourself have been working for years there trying to bring this all forward and support a lot of people, which is absolutely a fantastic and amazing thing you're doing. So, which sort of brings me to your book there, because you authored a couple of books there to sort of support and help people through this sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's the same book twice because the coloured print was expensive. I want to keep it to absolute minimum cost so people can afford to buy it because it's not. I don't make any money out of it. So it's called Humalien. The coloured one's on Amazon. Don't go for third-party copies. And then there's one called Humalien Too, T-O-O. So it's the same print. The pictures just aren't as pretty and it's not as good quality paper. But it doesn't matter. It's got the same information in it. And I've kept it simple so that, not dumbed it down, but so that a child or an older child, maybe 12 onwards, it would help them to realise that they are not alone doing it. And it would also help adults that are trying to work through it, or people that are new at it. So I haven't written it as if the person reading it knows all about it. It's a simple little book, but it seems to have helped people.
That's good. No, it's fantastic. I'll throw a link up there so people can obviously go and look into it. Was it Amazon, was it?
Yeah, just do the Amazon ones. There's a lot of people trying to steal it and sell it for triple the price.
Yeah, no, we don't want that. Don't want to rip people off.
No, but major dramas do that. So just Amazon, the original copy.
No worries. I'll throw a link up for that one there in the comments there at some point, and so then if anyone who is interested can go and jump on it and have a bit of a read. So I do have a question here from someone asking, how did you breathe on the mothership of the Greys there?
All right. Well, it's like medical. That's a fair question, and it's quite an in-depth answer, so I may not be able to answer it completely here. But it's in the book. It's a medical procedure, okay? Babies are conceived in the usual way, and I think there was a father, right? A human father. I even think I know who that is, but it's still medical. They go in through laparoscopy and they go into you. Is this a man or a woman asking the question?
Man, I think.
Okay. Well, they go into your female bits and go to your eggs and remove your eggs and fertilise the eggs, and they come back at like 6 weeks and about 10 weeks and then at 12 weeks to 15 weeks. And each time they remove the fetus, take it away. We couldn't do this on Earth. The fetus would die, there's no question. Somehow surgically, and I didn't see this done, but I asked the question, splice in some more of their DNA into the baby's DNA, reimplant it in the side of my uterus or the surrogate mum's uterus, inject the side of the uterus with something that makes it take, probably a hormone, and they check on the baby, and then at about 3 months, but the latest one I had was 5 months, when they think the baby's doing well, they take it. No consent, night time. You're pregnant one day and you're not pregnant the next. Because you're pregnant for a few months on Earth, you have ultrasounds, blood tests, positive pregnancy tests, all of those things. And then suddenly overnight the fetus is gone. And I did see that in another person, which is helpful for me, a patient that I had many years ago nursing. And she was actually 8 months pregnant, so I haven't seen anything like that. And she had all the ultrasounds, all the tests, and she came into emergency late one night because she couldn't feel the baby moving. And I did the ultrasound, and there was no baby. And the poor woman, this was a long time ago, they sent her off to the psych unit. But she had ultrasounds. She had proof there was a fetus there. She looked pregnant. She still had the amniotic sac. And anyway, so I think they do it more than you think. And some people might think they just had a miscarriage, but it's not likely. There's usually other things around it that go with it. So it's medical procedures. You can laugh if you like, but it's not sex with aliens. I get asked that all the time.
Oh, you're missing all the enjoyment there.
People like to play with it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, well, no, there's some fetishes out there, I'm sure. But you must have missed like it was one of the questions I was going to bring up for the breeding side of things. But they asked breathing, like the respiratory side of things. How do you breathe on the?
Okay, well I can breathe there, but I come back feeling very sick. When I come back, I'm really pale. I'm struggling to breathe, and I usually throw up, and I've got a headache. Right? That's every time. That's how I know I've been. First thing that happens. So, like I said at the beginning, they have much lower oxygen levels than we do. Because I asked, and the reason they're grey is because they've got a different blood gases, different levels of oxygen. Like we'd be blue, but they're grey because that's their normal colour from their blood. And yeah, well they can't do it here, and I can't do it there. We get a couple of hours, and we both feel sick when it's said and done.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough too. So what about like their skin complexion and all sorts of stuff? Like obviously because our skin is affected a lot with the sun and all sorts of stuff. Do they have much to do with sun-wise things?
Well, yeah, very much, and that's why they have big eyes, because they're used to being in the dark. And on the ships, it's quite dark. I find it, it's like twilight. They can't cope with lights. Apart from the fact they hurt their eyes, they also burn their skin. So they're more pasty than grey, in my description, but they feel like a dry mushroom.
Oh yeah.
So cool, maybe slightly hair. I'm not sure if it is. It's microscopic, but soft. That's the best I can give you. That's what they feel like.
Yeah. Okay. So were they naked, or were they like sort of like a biosuit on or something?
It's another question. Why are aliens always naked?
Yeah.
They're not. It's just a flesh-coloured onesie, like baby's onesie, because that's their spacesuit. Don't our astronauts wear a spacesuit?
Yeah, but it's bulky and
but
can't see the inside.
Technology's behind.
Yeah.
That's all it is. So no, it's a head-to-toe onesie.
Yeah, wow, that's
basically flesh-coloured. If you look, you can see it's there, and it's there. They don't seem to wear gloves.
So I wonder what the purpose of that is if they're not wearing like a full gloved sort of bodysuit.
It's temperature protection. I don't know. There might be oxygen in it. I don't know, but definitely temperature. And they've got to wear clothes. They've got modesty factors like we do.
Yep. So obviously they do have some sort of genitalia and all sorts of stuff as well.
Yeah, they do. Oh, look, I've never looked at it.
Yeah.
And again, I get asked that a lot. But yes, the men have penises and the women have vaginas, and they're biologically compatible with us, and their breeding process is exactly the same as ours.
Yeah, fair
Otherwise, they
enough.
couldn't use it, could they?
No, that's right. So there's obviously big similarities there between us. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, definitely. So I think it might have been you I might have been speaking to a while back in regards to the cow mutilations. So
Oh, I have a funny story about that. I don't know if it's funny, but it's a story.
yeah, no, look, I think I was talking to you about it, and you say these the greys are involved in the cow mutilations.
Well, personally, I've only had one experience with that. And what happened was, I'll try and keep it short. Um, I've had 3 different microchips, so that's just simply the tracking device. Okay.
Yep.
But it's the same thing, only more advanced, that Graham uses in his hand for doors and tests and things. So the human body, I've got one behind my ear now that doesn't seem to be as much of a problem. But when I was about 8, I got my second one. As a baby, it was in my nose, and then it was under my left knee. And now it's behind my left ear. Now, my body kept trying to eject the one in my knee, and it'd pass up and come to the surface, and then I'd try and get it out, and it'd go back. And I'd go to doctors. Mum would take me to doctors. I went to doctors, and they said, look, it must be something like a piece of glass from a falling over as a child, but I had no memory of that, and I had no scar from where it was. So anyway, this particular day, it had partly come out. I knelt down on the carpet to pick something up, and it got caught in the thread of the carpet and ripped out. And this was no piece of glass or piece of gravel. It looked like a quartz mix of something else, but more like quartz than anything else. It was cone shaped, about that long, with a pointy end, a cone, and a bigger end there, and it telescoped into itself like that, folded
Oh
up.
wow.
I know. That was no naturally occurring object. So I washed the blood off it, a bit of a mess, and put it on the back of my kitchen bench. I was going to throw it out, and something went, no, keep it. But it was gone in the morning. But also, I had this new implant. They'd come back and put it in. Now, the reason this matches up the cow mutilations is because someone tried to break into my house the same night as the implant came out. So, guardian angels working overtime, coincidence, take it as you will. But this night my implant came out, so they would have gotten a lot of static and interference as if the implant had been removed or the person had been injured, and they came down. They're good to their own. And their shit was hanging over my backyard, and my dog was going silly all night. And I remember going to the back door and looking out and going, oh, hi. I knew it was by this stage.
Yeah.
And they went back to bed. Oh, and when they do whatever they do, you can't stay awake. I liken it to medical sedation, but I don't really know what it is. I didn't go and check on my children. I would never get up, even at that stage, to go to the loo without checking on my kids, but I just went crash, back to sleep. And then in the morning, I didn't really remember. But going to work at 10 to 9, I remember exactly where I was. Hans Tor was on the radio. It was 2WS before it was FM. And I was on Sunny Holt Road going to work at a drug company, okay, at Castle Hill. You just have to be careful which bits you tell and which bits you don't. And then an announcement came over the radio saying that a human body had been found, like cow mutilations, at the back of a certain street, which was my street.
Oh.
So I got to work and I rang the station and said, what did you find? And they said, we'll get the manager. The woman that answered said, we'll get the manager. And the manager, who was a man, said, we've been told to pull the story. And he was shaking. You could hear it in his voice. And he hung up on me. So I rang the police. And I said, listen, I know something about that. I want to tell you what happened when the ship was there. And the policeman said to me, we know it's not human, case closed. So, yeah, I was told it was like cow mutilations. I didn't see the body, but it was exactly where the ship was. They'd told me not to go out, and someone had been trying to break into my house.
Wow.
They killed him.
Yeah.
So there's nothing funny about that, but they do protect, and I would never, obviously, kill someone, but they protect their own.
That's strange. It sort of makes me wonder, like, is someone on the outside keeping an eye on you sort of had an idea that there's a frequency there to go and track you, knowing that this device was now out in the open for the taking and trying to grab it maybe?
Well, I think they watch us continually. I mean, not every second of every day, but they tune in on their subjects, their experimental subjects, and they would have gotten signals saying that I was in trouble.
Yeah.
I wasn't actually in trouble. It had just come out. But as they got there, someone had been trying to break into my house, and that's the man they killed, according to the police.
Yeah, so you didn't see the actual guy that was trying to break in?
No.
No. Yeah, that really makes you wonder. Like, I think someone was sort of having a good idea of what's going on in your life there. And yeah.
Well, my phone had also been tapped because I'd had someone come out to test the landline, and there was a cut where the bug had been put, and the man that tested it said, I said, will you put that in writing? Because before phones, or I could have photographed it, before mobile phones took photos, I mean. And he said, no, but there's absolutely definitely been a bug there. So, yeah. But I'm not the only one now. They can go follow someone else.
No, that's fair enough too. That's fair enough. That's still scary, knowing that you were sort of on the brink of something happening to you and your family there.
Well, I think we would have all been killed that night. That's what Graham told me anyway, and that's what the police suggested.
Yeah.
So the police were nice. Every time something like this happens, the police are nice. They believe it. They don't treat me like a nutter.
Yeah, well, that's good. I suppose they've got to keep it professional too, though, but, you know...
but I don't report everything, obviously, but the times like that where the police have been involved, there hasn't been any question. Yeah, I mean, the body's there. It's cut open. There's no organs and no drops of blood anywhere, and nothing known to man can do that.
Yeah, that's precise. So, like people I've spoken to in regards to this as well, like they reckon cauterization, you know, like, which is a thing, but, you know, it just takes one little nick. Even with cauterization, it's still going to spurt out an artery or something like that. You know, it's not going to cover all the blood or stop the blood.
And if they cauterised it, the blood would still be in the veins. Whereas these people and this particular body was exsanguinated, no blood left.
Yeah, completely drained.
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing. Like, I can't think of anything that can do that at the moment. Like you're saying, it's got to be them.
Well, there's lots more stories that link into that might explain it a bit better, but they can't be told in 5 minutes.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I think we've still got a bit of time left. If I can find my time left. We've still got about like 10 minutes, half an hour, depending on your time, if you've still got more to share. So
plenty more.
Yeah. So look, continue on. Like we're like obviously
So that's the cattle mutilations. All my life, I've seen a lot of UFOs, and when other people are with me, they see them too. There's always other witnesses. Okay. The best couple were I had a girlfriend staying here.
Yep.
We're out in the backyard. It was summer. It was dusk, and they looked like a star in the beginning. Light started coming towards us really fast, and she spotted it, even though she'd never seen one before. Not me. And she said, "What's that?" And I went, "Oop." Came right down, super high speed, right to over my house. It was the size of the roof of a house. All I could see was silver flat. It was still enough daylight. I ran out the front and followed it down the driveway, and it went really slowly and let me have a look. So, and this woman is standing watching it. So I'm not imagining it when there's other witnesses. And then it just took off. So it was like they were showing me their new car.
So you got a fair bit of detail out of it. Yeah,
it was great. It was just fantastic. And then one New Year's Eve, I live on the Central Coast. Everyone knows that. So it's no great secret. And there's a lot in Brisbane Waters. The body of water at Gosford Waterfront is called Brisbane Waters. And there's a lot of sightings there. They come in and out of the water. A lot of people see them. There's no question. But this particular New Year's Eve, my granddaughter and I were watching the fireworks, and there were 5 red orbs watching the fireworks with us, and we could see them really clearly. We were on the other side from the crowd, down a side street, on the water, in sort of one of the estuaries. And in front of us was a police boat, close enough for us to see the men on board, or no women, and hear them talking. Not what they were saying, but that's how close they were. So after the fireworks, I said to my granddaughter, let's just wait. And they came down really close to us, like, papers with numbers. So if you've got a pointed roof of a house, it'd be that high, the top of the point, not a flat roof house. And went really slowly. And the police, the radios are going, the lights are flashing, there's helicopters coming in. That's really quite exciting. And the police started going slowly in front of the police boat. So they took off. And the UFOs, or grey alien spaceships, if you want me to be blunt,
Yep.
they'd go slow, they'd stop and wait for the boat to catch up. They'd go slow again. They were playing cat and mouse. They were playing. They were absolutely not there to harm anyone. And then when the police boat got really close, they just took off.
Tell you what, one thing I was
And
like,
a lot of people saw them.
one thing I've noticed is like with these craft sightings, people seeing alien crafts or whatever, they're a big tease. And like, people saying like,
us.
love it, and then like
It's
they just
so
want to
good.
see it again, but never go and see it. Like some are lucky enough to see it again, but so a lot of other people are just there forever trying to find the same experience, or
Well,
trying to find
within a
answers.
few days, sorry,
Yeah, you're right. You take it.
within a few days of that experience, okay, that was it doesn't matter. I just have to be careful because some things are in the media and names.
Yeah, that's
and things.
fine.
So within a week of that experience, I was parked at a red traffic light, and it was 10 to 5 at night. So it was still daylight. It was peak hour. And here, I don't know if you know Gosford, but there's a secret army base, but it's really just a training base. At Erina, it's not so secret, but it always seems to be closed. And that was on my right. So I was parked, stopped. I wasn't driving, and all the cars around me were also looking up, seeing it. Again, not my imagination. A police helicopter flew down really low, just above the power lines. Underneath it was a typical, like the one on your picture, above your head, only without the lights. Clearly single-person spaceship stuck to the bottom of a helicopter. So I just sat there with my mouth open and saw it go into the army base and disappear behind the bushes. Broad daylight. And I figure it was like the NRMA and a broken down spaceship.
Yep.
So these are physical experiences. These are not dreams or out of body things or drug trips or mental illness. Not when everybody around you can see it too.
No, that's the thing too. I was about to ask you, like, was there any like reports of anyone seeing this?
Well, by that stage, I'd given up ringing the police, but I did on that New Year's Eve, and they said, "Oh, look, we just give up. We're not going to deny it. We can't keep up with the number of calls." So the police one said, "Yeah, there were UFOs there." So I don't think Gosford police deny it at all. But I didn't ring after this particular incident. However, the rest of the traffic was watching with me.
Oh, look, I think half the world watching these things there are still wondering what's going on sometimes.
Well, I knew what was going on. I knew what it was. I've seen them before. I've seen them landed. I've been in them. And I'm just
you've
thinking,
been lucky. You've been incredibly lucky. Like the people like who haven't had your experiences there be like wondering, what's that? So it leaves a lot of questions.
I think it's simply, I was part of the breeding program by birth, by chance. Okay, I didn't choose that. But I got on really, really well with my abductor.
That's a good thing.
And that helped. He just, he allowed me to ask questions. He gave me answers. He was nice to me. We'd have a giggle. He was gorgeous. He is gorgeous. He's just a really old man now. That helps a lot. So I think I got showed things I didn't necessarily have to get shown.
Yeah, so you're definitely one of the lucky ones there, because from the people I've spoken to in regards to this sort of thing, like the abductions and that, they don't really seem to remember anything or even get remotely an introduction to what's about to happen to them.
You've got to ask. And I had a bit of a rant and begged them, said, "You will explain this to me."
You've got a
They
lovely
laughed
one.
and did.
They would have been like, "Oh, we've got a lively one here, righto. Well, we can't argue with this one."
Yep.
Definitely lucky. But see, a lot of people, like even like you're saying, like you're saying you get angry with them because like the biggest realization of this whole thing is you have no control of what's going to happen to you or when or where this thing is going to happen. And to me, that's the scariest part of this whole genre altogether.
Yep.
And I think that's what scares a lot of people too, because like I think that's another thing what people are more afraid of than anything is something they can't control.
And I agree. And I've had to really work through this. And it hasn't been easy, and I still have good and bad days. But I managed to have a normal life and not talk about it that much. But most of my friends have known all my life and believe it. So that makes it easy. I mean, of course that's supportive, but that's not the aim of it. They just believe it. They've seen things with me. But no, it is traumatic. It could be scary. I just stomped in there and went, "You will not do this to me." They still did it, but at least they explained why, and so I was a little bit more, oh, okay, I see your point of view. Like you and I with Venus, remember?
Yes, yeah. Oh,
And,
it's a good discussion, that one. We finally got there.
Yeah, so I think for me, but I think for most human beings, understanding helps you to not fear. Fear is usually from not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
Because I now know exactly what's going on, and I want to know more, and I want to go so that I can see my children. And there's no more medical procedures for me now. They're done with that side of things for me. So we're still useful to them, but it's kind of like we're rewarded afterwards.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm related to them. I feel like family to me, and you can't change that.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So why don't they seem to be doing this with other people as well? Like, what makes you special, do you think, that
I'm not
you
special.
can have a sort of,
Loud.
just, yeah. But, I mean, obviously, there was something there that they sort of kept coming back to you to go and...
I really think that's what it was. Graham liked me and I liked him. Honestly, I do. Plus, at least I had, I had Victor Chang. And I watched the first heart transplant in the back room, and I know that man's alive, so I can't give you his name. Exactly who did that. And I answered questions. They asked me questions. So much happened around that my life wouldn't be worth living if we said it on this. And the aliens saw that. So I don't know, I just got put in the right spot.
Yeah, I think it was definitely one of the special and lucky ones there to sort of have that sort of
Not
relationship.
Special. Not special, I'm a lab rat. But I like them.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose special wouldn't be the right word, but I'm trying to think of the word now, like, you're lucky enough just to have that sort of, where people are just like, they just get picked up and thrown back into their beds, and they're just sort of going, did something happen? Or still questioning everything for the rest of their life.
Well, I still get those times, but I've now had enough times that I do remember that I know what's going on by circumstances around it. I'm cold to the bone, shivering, because it was cold up there. I'm hypothermic. I've got a migraine. I get migraines anyway, but it's a different kind of headache from not enough oxygen. I just know. And usually I wake up before I hit the bed. Thud. Oh, God, here we go again.
So they're not putting you back gently.
I've usually seen a ship beforehand when I'm awake, hovering around. There's usually a police helicopter above my roof. They stand there they hover or go around for an hour and a half one night. But I went outside, even during the day, but it's always at the same time. I mean, police helicopters come anyway, but they come at the same time as a spaceship, is what I'm saying.
Yep. So they got something on their radars they're looking for.
Yeah.
And obviously, they're looking for it.
And I went outside when they were annoying me one day because it was just too loud, too low, too long.
Yeah.
And waved, and they took off.
Strange. So.
Yeah. Plus, a neighbour told me that one of the nights that I went, she saw a sheep above my house. So she was outside having a smoke.
Yeah. Wow. So can you describe these crafts for me?
Yeah, there's several different sizes of the round ones.
Yep.
There's one-person ones. There's four-person ones. But when I get in that one, I'm so squished up because I'm not small anyway, but humans are just too big for them.
Yep.
There's metal seats that seem to be moulded in, but there's no... And windows closed, so when you're moving, you can't see or feel anything. But they can open the windows and you can see the stars later on.
That'd be beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It is beautiful. I can't see any controls, and so I've asked about that, and they've said the same old microchip that I thought was magic.
Yep.
Look, I've got one of those bank rings. Do you have those? Bankwest has a ring.
No.
Yeah, it's before phones tapped a couple of years ago. They came out.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the little chip in. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, and still, when I pay for things on it, people say I've never seen one of those. I go, they're so cool. I don't know why everybody hasn't got it.
Yeah.
And my joke is, I'm an alien. I said, "Oh, how did you make it ping? There's no phone there."
Yeah. No, I remember them now. Like, yeah, I do know what they are now. Yep. So it's basically it's a, if I remember correctly, it's a rubber sort of ring, like those little
No, it's
bands.
ceramic.
Oh, okay. Oh, ceramic.
Come in black and white. So I'll do a plug for
Yeah, there you
Bankwest.
go. There you go. Advertise for them.
And I think they're about $39, but then there's no bank fees anywhere.
Yeah. Wow. Well, there
I
you
know,
go.
it's all great. You've got a card as well if you want it. It's on your phone as well if you want it. But until we had to check in for COVID, I could go for a walk with just the ring on, or I could go for a swim.
Yeah.
So it's like that. The reason I brought that up is it's that plus that. Imagine when they put our driver's license on it, our Medicare number, our house key, our turn the light switch on like a smart house. Like you put all of that in a microchip. They put in a ring, they put in a hand. They've done it anyway, humans.
Yeah.
Only I saw this before we had this development. So, I knew about microchips in hands way before they were unearthed. And so it's a little bit easier now for me to give you an example of something that it looks like than it was a couple of decades ago.
Yeah. I think a lot of the old sci-fi movies sort of helped along that process too, like sort of introducing this sort of technology.
Yeah.
The flip phones, people talking like little walkie-talkies and that sort of stuff, or even like little holograms. Like we're sort of getting to that sort of side of things.
Well, I got a hologram from Claire, my eldest daughter.
Yep.
Because she'd had another baby and COVID was on and they wouldn't let me go.
Oh, yeah, bloody COVID.
So, anyway, and I said, well, why can't you do what my daughter-in-law that lives overseas, my human one, does? She sends me videos. Or we phone call. Why can't we do that? And she said, well, my phone doesn't match with your phone. So she said, hang on, I'll send you something. And it wasn't a random hallucination. It was organised, part of the conversation. So she sent me what I can only describe as a very precisely clear, better than any picture we've got on our tech, hologram of this baby. I couldn't touch it, but I could see it very clearly.
Wow.
I know. I was just flabbergasted. I was fully awake, so I know it was a dream. She told me what it was. She says, I can't send you a video because I want something I can keep and show people, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
But she said, but I can send you the hologram now. So they do try. She said, I haven't got a phone. I can't just ring you. I can't send you a video. We don't do videos.
Bugger. Oh, if only we could have that sort of technology here and where we could just like interact. Like I would love for the day that we can sort of just interact with someone from outer space, back and forth, like a bit of a pen pal sort of thing.
Yeah, but we will. I am absolutely certain we will, and it's not that far off.
Oh, it can't come quick enough for my liking.
Well, we didn't have mobile phones when we were kids. We didn't have computers when we were kids.
Yeah. So that does. When you think about it, technology's gone very fast through the last few decades.
It has.
Like especially I think it's like when you even mentioned before, like from Roswell being the start of it all, and I think that's when our technology, sort of like electronics wise, really just boomed straight off.
Yeah. Well, apparently they gave us technology in exchange for lab rats.
Yeah, which is
horrible
deal.
True, isn't it? And I think part of what's happened now is that I feel like I fight through, and it's because I love my children, right?
Yeah.
And because I like Graham, and I have to fight through. But I think a lot of people are remembering, and I think that they're letting us. I think they're sedating us a bit less when they take it. They're not making people look crazy when they just have a snippet of a memory. And I think people are waking up, and that's why I said there's so many more of me out there than I realised until I was the person they were allowed to speak to.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
So they don't want to give their names. They don't want to come out because I got some sort of bullying in the first place, but I just decided I was going to keep going. And they contact me, and I've seen some photographs of spaceships, and I'm not allowed to show you. And it's just, there are people out there that remember. And it mightn't be exactly like me, but your day at the zoo mightn't be the same as my day at the zoo either.
Yeah, that's right.
But there's enough in common for me to go, uh-oh. And plus, because I was on TV a few years ago, this woman from America contacted me and said, I was on the mothership. I saw you there.
Oh, wow.
When you were on TV, I went, that's her.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
There's a few more people that I'm now friends with, 6 in total, that one of us we've seen each other on the spaceship.
Yep. But she's obviously got a bit of memory, but you obviously don't have a bit of memory of that?
I don't remember her, but I totally believe her. Everything she
Yep.
said was right, and I now know her really well, and she's not going to make it up. But
Yep.
I just believed her because, she was, when she looked around the room, she could see what I could see looking around the room.
Yeah. Well, she's lucky enough to remember it too, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is great. Because that's
So,
sort of one of those things. Like, why haven't they got the same sort of people interacting with each other? Like, like you and your friend and other people sort of interacting with each other whilst on this ship. Like, why do they have them like stationed in different parts of the ship, or?
well, I think in my understanding only, and I must repeat, not the expert,
Yep.
they it was a contract where they promised to keep it secret. So that's one thing. I think their sedations come a long way, like our anaesthetics have. So that's better in our lifetime. I think fear blocks people's memory psychologically, even without any sedation. If you don't believe in aliens, but you're taken by them on a regular basis, you may, just by virtue of being human, completely block that. You might just see a lot of UFOs and know something's happened, but can't deal with it.
Yeah. So a bit of like a repressed memory sort of thing going on.
Yeah. Whereas some of us, I don't know, I always remembered something. But the big memories came since they asked. Don't you dare sedate me that much. I want to remember what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do they actually ask you questions before they take you? Like.
Well, I've had a lot of conversations with Grandpa Graham over my lifetime. So it's more than I'm going garble, garble, garble.
Yeah.
They're stuck answering the questions. I think they probably wouldn't explain if I didn't ask. And then he's gotten to know me and he just sort of goes, oh, what, not you again?
Yeah. So they're not going through the whole process like when you go into a hospital asking like who you are, nothing like that.
Oh, no, it's a highly organised science program, science experiment. It's just like the ones our astronauts do or we do in labs. Like there's control subjects. They take the same group of babies throughout their life at the same ages, which is why I've seen certain people at certain stages. They've got the big kids looking after the little kids, so they haven't got any toddlers falling over. It's all documented. There samples and tests and things taken every single visit. And also the groups. Grandpa Graham's the leader of my group, but there might be 100 other groups with another leader.
Yeah, definitely.
He's also the DNA donor for my group. So that means that these people that remember me are probably actually related to me.
Yeah, it could very well be too.
Yeah.
So on that, I just did have a question then. I've lost it now. So with the, obviously because they're hybrids in a sense, do they still have the same aging process as what we do, like the timeline? Like obviously.
Right. Time and space is different. There's no question. We measure a year as going around the sun, don't we?
Yeah.
So we have a birthday on the day that we were born. They don't count birthdays. So, and they can't really because they're in different places in the universe and the time is different. So they do age, absolutely, but it's not, they haven't got sun wrinkles. They tend to melt.
Yep.
Then crinkle. And bend over, like maybe a bit of osteoporosis, that sort of thing. You can tell the older ones than the young ones. But, yeah, they don't have birthdays. They count people in stages of development, and it's the same with the abductee humans. So it might be 0 to 2, not your 1, but you're the 0 to 2 stage, whatever they might call it.
So it's sort of like a levelling system.
Yeah, so it's stages of development, groups. But the adults that I have found or have found me, well, they've all found me actually, we've known each other as children. One of them, a girlfriend now, I remember completely her. I was in charge of her. She's not much younger than me as an adult. We're the same age, but she must have been a couple of years younger. She is a couple of years younger. And I had to look after her. And she had a gap in her teeth. She'll know who it is. And a fringe. And she was short for her age. And I remember her name. Then as an adult, I met her and I went, oh, my God, it's you. And her name had been changed slightly. Again, no names on this.
Yep.
And so she got me a photograph of her at the age I described, and sure enough, that's her.
Wow.
And then there's another one that I remember. She had to hold my hand. So she was older than me, and she's come out as an abductee. And then I do know the father or the sperm donor or the whatever of my space children. We're not... Anyway, it's not good. But once you talk about these things are bad. Well, they're not bad, but they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
then he remembers me and I remember him. So
No, fair enough. Yeah, look, I don't
right,
think
so
people are
there's an
too
awful
worried
lot of
about the uncomfortable
instances.
parts. I think people would be quite intrigued, to be honest.
Well, if everybody would come out, because most people just go, I'm not saying it,
Yeah.
and a high court would summon all of our medical records, and subpoena, whatever, subpoena all of our medical records and police records from when we've reported things and any psychiatric records and case people are, and all of the witnesses are there, and we've all got our microchips, and we've all got our proof of pregnancy, and we've all got DNA, and I reckon we'd come pretty close to proving it. But too many people are afraid, that's what it is. And that's because the culture since Roswell has been, first of all, they killed them, people came out, and then they called them crazy,
Yeah.
and now people just laugh. But I don't know if you've noticed, it's been on every mainstream TV channel in the last year.
Yeah. And people still laughing about it.
Yeah, and they're not producing it very well, but at least it's there. I know it's stupid, isn't it? That's what I was saying to you before we started. I mean, they're not like this in Japan. They're not like this in the UK. I don't get laughed at there.
Yeah. I think there's still be a few people in the UK because we're pretty well close to being Aussie-ish as much as
Yeah, but they're still
can.
better at
But
it. They believe in ghosts and UFOs. The Aussies are still a
yeah,
bit.
well, I think that might be a European sort of thing, like because they come from a big background there where fairy tales of dragons, vampires, and other
Oh,
sort
yeah.
of supernatural sort of things like stories down the years. And I suppose to them that anything that's sort of supernatural or superstitious, I think that's the right word, is like the norm for them. They grew up with that sort
Yeah.
of environment and that. Whereas Australia, we're sort of like our own culture,
Of course we are.
and I suppose everything that's sort of outside the wacky world of the normal is laughable. Like I know Aussies have a good sense of humour in that. Well, they used to, but I don't think we took it as seriously as what they did in Europe.
Yeah. Well, whereas you and I have laughed at things that we both know are true just because
Yeah.
it's our culture to do so.
Yeah, that's right. Like there are things that you laugh at, but there's also needs to come down to a certain point where you need to respect people because, like, obviously they're not finding it funny. They're not that's if they're not trying to make it funny out of it. But either way, take it seriously and have some sort of respect there, just for the fact that they could be sharing something that is actual factual.
Well, I don't think anybody can make these things up because the things that I've seen and have been talking about aren't on Earth, and I'm not clever enough to have made them up. I couldn't invent.
Well, see, that's the
Okay,
other
it
thing.
boils down to that.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like, so many people are having these same experiences, or at least similar,
There are.
and either these people are congregating and making this big ass plan, to sort of go, hey, look, this is what we're going to do to the world. This is what you've been abducted, you've been probed, or whatever. Like, let's get together and go and try and spread this out. So it's a big ass rumor and say it's fake.
Well, I've never been probed, but the joke's always made. But I'm sure you know about the male anatomy and the way sperm samples are taken.
Yep.
So that's not actually unreasonable.
Yeah, so they'll obviously they'll be doing the
Sperm samples.
yeah, obviously obviously your old mate's going to be knocked out. So in a sense, he's probably is being probed in some way.
Yeah. But I don't think they do it that way anymore either. I think that's the way they used to do it. They have changes too.
Yeah. But I think the big thing with the probing thing, I think that came out from a Hollywood thing. I can't remember what his name is, but I can't even think what it's called now. But there was a movie, Hollywood produced it, and the whole probing thing escalated from that. And that's where a lot of the stigma came from. Being abducted by aliens and probing and all sorts of stuff came from that movie. And
well,
it just got thrown out of perspective.
Like one of your questions, like people always basically want to know if you're having sex with aliens, and
Yeah.
the answer is no.
Yeah.
But they think it's funny, and they're going to give you a hard time about it. There are other ways. We do have medicine. Even on Earth, we have medicine and medical intervention for fertility.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's obviously processes there. To how they're doing it is obviously the biggest question there. Like, obviously you have an idea from your side of things with the female perspective, but from a bloke's it could be a number of ways. But
Well, yeah. And I don't think men are taken, from my observation in the people that I've met, and there's now a lot of them, I don't think the men are taken as often.
Yeah.
But that's understandable because you've got to do the medical checks on the pregnant women.
Yeah. So then that also makes me wonder: is like you're saying that they sort of can't breed anymore on their own, so they're having to use us as a bit of a surrogacy. So from which side does it seem to be the issues? Is it from their male side or the female side? That's
Well, both. I think it's just about, excuse me,
you're right.
cat making noises.
You're good.
I think it's both because they're in space and not in their natural environment. I think we'd become infertile living in space too. I don't know whether the ISS astronauts come back with low sperm count or lack of eggs that aren't working either, but things would change. There's been a few generations of them in space and they just couldn't get pregnant.
Yeah.
So it's probably sperm because we're born with our eggs, logically thinking.
Yeah.
But I haven't actually asked them that. But I'd say the women's eggs aren't useful either.
Yeah, because it's also made me more lean towards it's the females that are having issues maybe producing the eggs or maybe even getting through the development stages there of fertilization even.
But it has to be both. It has to be because they're telling me they can't get pregnant on their own. However, my daughter, so that's a few generations down, she's now got 2 children.
Yeah.
That are Humalien that live with her that I've seen. And she got pregnant naturally with a partner who's also Humalien. So it's working, whatever they're doing. The fact that they're fertile again if they're half human.
Yeah, so the reason why I'm sort of leaning towards the females side of their species having the issues there is because, like you were saying, seem to be taking more female humans for this process.
Oh, I get you. Well, that's because they need our uterus. They need to use the womb for the first
so you're surrogating.
months. We're surrogate. Yeah, and then they put them, and I've only just found out, I've heard this from other people, but I've only just found out that it's true because it makes me angry. Then they put them in an artificial womb.
Yeah.
And when I was given a tour of the other shift, Grandpa Graham said, I'm not showing you the babies because you'll get upset. And I would have, he's right, I would have been really angry at seeing all these babies in fake wombs, But so that they are able to take them from us. They can't survive from scratch. But they can, if they've been in us for long enough, that's 3 or 4 months, 3 to 5 months maybe, then they can put them in these artificial wombs and grow them to a term. And what he did tell me was that their gestational period is much shorter than ours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
And then we're taken back to cuddle them.
yeah, well, it's like, thanks for that.
Well, we know that human babies die without love.
Yeah, I just feel
that sounds silly, but that's what they need.
Yeah, I find it's also a bit cruel in its own way too. Like it's like, oh well, thanks for surrogating. We're going to take it away for a few months, then you're going to bring you back there to go. Oh, look, here it is. After you just mourned and
and that's why I keep saying it is traumatic. It is not a joke. It is not something I could imagine up. I certainly wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
And there are so many conflicting emotions. It's not funny. Plus, I think did you tell me? No, it was someone else. That most of us have PTSD. Well, I've not major league PTSD, but I've certainly got some. And I have a repeated nightmare of my children being kidnapped. And I wake up sobbing. And I know exactly what's going on. And then in that dream, I ring 000 and they don't answer. And I ring and I ring and I ring and no one will help me. And my kids are missing. And it's like, I wake up and I go, God, I know what's going on. I know what the dream's about. And I still had that like a week ago.
Yeah.
So it's still in there in my subconscious, and that's PTSD, even if I'm functional during the day.
Yeah. I even think that's like a sort of form of anxiety as well in its own way.
Yeah, maybe that's, well, I think I've just gotten through that.
Yeah. Everyone experiences anxiety in their own way. People deal with it in different ways. If you can overcome it, that is fantastic for those people that can, but
well, my human children nearly got kidnapped once, and it was awful. And I relived this. And I couldn't tell anyone.
So, it's obviously scary in its own way. Like, obviously...
It's not normal, is it?
No, it's very scary. And I think for a majority of the people, like I was saying before, like, you got no control over what's going to happen to you. Let alone even your family. So I think that's the biggest take on this is like we have no control. whatever's going to happen is going to
No,
happen.
you've got no control. And the group of people that say you made a contract before you were born, and I just want to slap them.
From that, I think they deserve it too.
Or you consented. No, bloody well did not consent.
Yeah. So
but I've chosen to cope and try and make the best of it.
Yeah.
And part of helping other people, my intent was absolutely to help others that are going through it, but it's helped me as well.
Yeah. So I've even heard that other people, they're saying, basically on the contract thing, people are saying, well, can't you end it?
Well, apparently not. I can't answer the why, but apparently not.
Which is unfortunate. I thought...
What about that doctor that cut out all those microchips and he's got a whole lot of them? Do those people get taken again? Well, I've read that they do because they replace the microchip the second it's out.
Yeah.
I know, I've had 3, and other people have told me similar stories. So I don't think you can. And I think it's like we track whales or sharks. I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be something similar, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah. It's not really very nice.
No.
But I can see the big picture for them.
Yeah, I hope it's for them, I think, and for us, it is a good thing. Like, I hope it's like the outcome for the whole, whatever scenario, idea they got going on, whatever the end game is, I hope it's going to have a good outcome.
I believe and sense that it will, that it is ultimately good, but there are a lot of ethical questions.
Yeah.
I
think they have a lot of questions to answer for too.
They do.
That sense. And so do our governments on that sense.
Absolutely. I've had to go at Grandpa Graham about this, and it's affected my health physically, and he said, we know there are consequences and we're really sorry, but we can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
our government consented to taking junior soldiers to use them for a breeding experiment, and now their great-great-grandchildren, or however many generations we're down, are still being affected. So, no, they didn't have any choice in it. I don't think the first person did.
Yeah, I think the soldiers might have. They would have sort of been picked through, I suppose, and selected and gone, hey, do you want to go on this special expedition or something like that, and see you later?
Well, there've got to be other reasons for people to be taken. Like Travis Walton, I totally believe him. But he was just taken the once because he got in the way of the ship beam and got injured, and they took him and rescued him, he says. I heard him speak once. So... and that was a one-off. It's not through life. It's not for breeding purposes. So he didn't get a choice because he was knocked unconscious when they took him. I don't think we ever get a choice. I'm trying to tell you that maybe some people do, but I don't think we do.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like recently, I don't know how true it is, but with Travis Walton there, one of the guys that was with him, it just recently come out, well, not recently, I think it's been a while now, but he came out saying it was all bullshit.
I heard him speak, and I went to a dinner, so it wasn't a one-on-one, but it was a small dinner, and I believed every word he said in person. I got a good sense of that. When you read something, you mightn't be able to tell, but he was humble, genuine, traumatised, and he said that Fire in the Sky movie, and I hope that I'm defending him because that's what I want to do, wasn't 100% accurate. And I have heard that too. So it's not, and he did a lie detector test, and so did the other loggers.
Yep.
And I did a lie detector test on Channel 10 in front of people without knowing what the outcome was, and I got 100% 3 times. And it was no. I didn't know what a lie detector was other than what you probably know, but it was done by a federal police lie detector man.
Yep.
So been practice with murderers, and he said no lies here, no. And it was a major medical test thing. It was far bigger than I had imagined. So if Travis went through that, you can't lie your way through it. You can't.
Yeah. But extremely difficult anyway. Like I've heard people can beat them, but I don't know if that's possible.
So I believe him. I believe him.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. Look, I suppose it all comes down to your own perspective or your own opinions on the matter and how you want to approach it, really.
Just stuff he said, stuff about inside the ship, stuff about the medical stuff they did to him. Just, they weren't the same as my experiences, but there were similarities.
Yeah.
And he was, as I said, there for different reasons. So, again, he couldn't have imagined that up.
Yeah, no, I'm just like generalizing from like the
Yeah.
major public. Like people have different ideas and perspectives and opinions on everything. And
There are
if
people
that's
out there
what they want to believe.
I don't want to subscribe to, but I will stand up for that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's fair enough. So do have a couple of questions here for you before we do get to the end of the show there, because we're getting pretty close to it. One's asking like, and it's probably going to bring up a couple of our previous discussions too, so you'll like this. So, why do the ships look like glowing lights?
Oh, well, that's easy. Because, we have headlights on the car.
Yep.
Well, their light source is, again, one we don't have. Okay, but the best I can give you is infrared, but it's different to that. And I think we just haven't discovered it. And when the lights are on, they cover the whole ship.
Yeah.
It's true. So all you're seeing is the lights. When they turn their lights off, if it's daytime, you'll see the ship. They're not balls of light. They're not plasma. I believe in the spiritual stuff too, but not this. They're spaceships like a car with their lights on, and they can be red. It's a reddy orange, green, or white. And mostly it's gears.
Yeah.
But when they're almost stationary, they're red. When they're going slowly, they're green. When they're going at high speed, they're white.
Yep. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a totally different light that we haven't found. So the way I'm sort of thinking of it is like I don't know if you've seen like the night vision red lights in the distance of a camera. Like it's not giving off a lot of
it's not like
glow
that.
light, but like, I sort of like think it's similar in its own way.
Well,
like
I guess
because not giving a glow to the whole area, it's just the glow to that own little.
I hear you, and I know what you're referring to, but I don't know how to answer it adequately, other than we have infrared, UVA, UVB. Help me here. What else do we have? Ultrasound.
Yeah, like a lot of things going. Yeah, I know what you mean.
They've got more. Okay, we just haven't discovered them.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't recognise it. It doesn't behave like ours.
Yep. No, that's fair enough. So also, go on here.
Because also we've got another lost the plot tonight with words.
Yeah, I'm like that every night when I'm doing this thing.
Well, there's no words to describe this stuff anyway. Let's face it. So we've got air, water, liquid, solid, gas, right? Basically, plasma. We know about more recently.
Yep.
They've got another one.
So a different element that we haven't got an idea of.
Yeah, and so that light tunnel that I described going up in, when we go back down, you've got to step in it. And I'm frightened, but it's just my fear of heights. I'm not frightened of them.
Yeah.
You've got to step into it, and you feel like you're floating down. It's all very controlled, but it feels like you're in water, but you're breathing. It's not water, and you can see light that's overlapped like that in dashes swirling around you, and nothing on the inside. Our light doesn't do that. Our light joins.
So do you think it might be like a dimensional sort of beam of light?
No, I think it's a physical elevator.
Yeah, okay. That's strange.
And talking about going through the roof when they take you up, one time, I was an adult here, so it's easy to remember. When I was taken up off the bed in the white light, I knew it was happening. I went up through the ceiling and I'm thinking, why? I must have woken up when I shouldn't have. And I could see cockroaches and I started sneezing.
Ugh.
Yeah, but that's real. If it was my spirit, I wouldn't have sneezed.
Yeah. So there you go. I've heard like there's a bit of a difference. Well, not difference. A similarity or a connection between spiritual and physical with these kind of beings.
Well, yes and no. I've had a near-death experience and gone down the white light tunnel, and I see the correlation in words, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
That's another discussion.
Yeah.
But but also that same night that I went up through the ceiling, Grandpa Graham dropped me back at the back door and he said, go through the door. I said, it's locked. And he said, go through the door, Jane. You know how to do it. Well, I forget. Okay. I'm like the old lady with Alzheimer's because they've drugged me, basically.
Yeah.
And so he put his arms around me and he stepped through the door. And then he went back and disappeared. And I just went upstairs to bed. And I was like, what?
Realization's kicking in.
It's not us that changes. I didn't feel anything. It's the door that changes or the ceiling that changes.
Yeah, righto.
So when people say to me, oh, that's a near-death experience, you went into the light tunnel and you went blah, blah, blah. No, sorry, had that too.
Yeah,
not even.
So what would you call it then? It's
a physical technology. It's a science thing. Like the microchip, we just don't understand it yet. But we will.
Yeah.
And in the not too distant future, I mean, say 100 years before, 200 years max. I don't know. It depends when things are discovered, but not thousands. They're not that far ahead of us.
Yeah, it's just enough to stay ahead, though.
Yes, that's right.
So, hang on, I've just lost the comment here now. So, if I can bring it back up, for some reason it just sent me away from that. Hang on, I need to say this side. That's why I've got two screens. Yeah. So, can you tell us humans who are under encounters with space friends are having own health issues?
Ah, yes.
What that cause it? Sorry,
Okay.
it's...
So the person asking the question
Yep.
are hinting that they're an abductee. Is that correct?
I'm assuming so. And they must be having some sort of health
Yes.
issues from the cause.
Absolutely. Yep. And there's always a medical explanation. I can give you whichever answer you want. I can play by the earth rules. But it does seem to be almost unanimous that abductees have some form of autoimmune disease.
Yeah, okay, I have heard this too.
The logic behind that, not the medical science for earthlings, but the logic, is that I have lupus, we produce an antibody in our blood to our own DNA instead of to the measles or whatever we're supposed to be getting rid of. So that's an antibody is the human cell, antigen is the flu, the disease, and the antigen is supposed to eat the antibody, right?
Yep.
So we're producing an antigen that eats our own DNA instead. Now, if we've got an alien, and it's mostly the women, an alien baby in our uterus with a whole different DNA to us, we're going to reject it.
Yep.
And we're going to form an antibody to the foreign species of DNA.
Or objects.
And that's what happens.
Yep.
Also, as I said, was mentioned to me, and again, there's logical explanations too, but earth explanations, it doesn't mean they're right, but that's what medicine says, that astronauts, even those that have gone to the moon, but particularly those on the ISS that are there for like a year,
yep,
they have specific changes to the shape of their blood cells and the number of their blood cells.
I have heard this, yep.
At times, years ago, I'm much better now, I had exactly that. And when someone like Victor Chang says, you've got the blood profile of an astronaut, he's got to know something, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's hinting something very strongly.
So does it affect our health? Well, the other thing is, when human beings are not made to go into space,
yep.
Of course it does. I just told you I'm sick every time I come back. Yep. And I'm going less now than when I was childbearing years. Yeah, maybe. I'm still going, but anyway. Of course we're going to get sick. I don't know how. It's like if you take a fish out of water and ask it to breathe air, it will get very sick and then it will die. If you take a human and take it out of the Earth's atmosphere and put it in a different atmosphere, it will get sick and die.
Yep.
If they're doing it short term and bringing us back, because that's as long as we can take, eventually it's going to accumulate and we're going to have to get sick.
Definitely.
So to this person, have you got an autoimmune disease? If you'd like to write to me, ask Anthony.
Yeah. No, look, if any of your questions regarding to your whole experiences or even like their own experiences, like by all means, like contact me through the Facebook page there and I'll definitely relay to you for sure. So
because there's things that I could say but would be wrong to say on air.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to give you my own medical records on air. I don't want to dispute doctors on air. Because doctors are very clever. Human doctors are fabulous, but they have a different explanation for these things. But yeah, I can certainly give you a more personal answer with details.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Look, we've got one more time because we're running over time now, so we've definitely got one more time for another question here. And someone who obviously knows a bit about your history with Channel 10 here. So so they're asking, how was your experience after your interview on Studio 10 and the mainstream media?
Who are you? It was bloody awful. The producer was fantastic and she groomed me for 6 months.
Yep.
I got there and they were really awful to me, and it was like I felt like I shouldn't say it, but I think I should. I should say it actually. I felt like I was on a stand and Ida Bottos was the lawyer and she was interrogating me. But I didn't fail. I just came home feeling sick. And also some of the answers were edited, and that's not what I said, or that's not where I said it. And I don't know. I really need to be polite, but I didn't enjoy it. However, what came out of it, and I've asked for it to come down because it was traumatic, but it got more hits than Trump.
Oh, wow.
And the Trump article. And I went on and on and on to ridiculous numbers. So the benefit was that people have contacted me out of that have needed to know that they're not the only ones, and as I said, still helped me.
Yeah.
So it seemed to be, and also there was a lot of jealousy in the UFO community. Somebody came out and said they wrote my book. They didn't, but somebody else believed them, and it was all a lot of hoo-ha I couldn't be bothered going into. Yeah. But there were repercussions. I'm innocent. I'm telling the truth, and I haven't stopped, and there's all these years later. So, but there was far more support than negativity. So, yeah, a lot of good came out of it. And I just had to, at one point I just felt like punched in the stomach, and I just had to stand up straight and go, so why are you doing this? To help everybody else. Keep going, Jane. One foot in front of the other. Breathe. Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, well, it is what it is. And I suppose media is always doing its best to make things not sound how they want to sound. Well, they want things to sound how they want to sound, I should say. Yeah. You know, they want the ratings and everything, all sort of stuff. And
well, I just thought they made me look stupid.
They tend to do that.
Yeah, even with the lie detector test. And the questions were fine, but had they asked the questions and put the right answer that I'd given in context, it might have been different. But anyway, a lot of good did come out of it.
Yeah, well, that's good. And it's good to see that you did get a lot of feedback from other people there supporting you, and
tremendous.
For you to be supporting a lot of other people too, which is fantastic. So, which is something that I find is sort of starting to die down a lot now in this sort of topic. There's not a hell of a lot of support coming for people of this sort of genre.
That's right. You just have to be brave, because the thing is, if all of these people that are telling me their stories, and I'm only one person, I know there are other people being contacted too. Yep. If they all came out and they all told their stories in their own words, nobody could doubt anymore. It's fear of bullying. That's what it is. Yeah. Fear of being laughed at. And yeah, you get some of it, but you get far more good.
Yeah. But look, I suppose if we keep trying and keep, like you said, 1 foot forward, and we'll eventually get there, and hopefully the whole laughing matter of this whole situation will disappear, you know, and it'll start becoming a more respective topic for people to discuss and be a lot more respectful in its own way, you know, where people can be understanding that this shit does go on.
Also, I'd like my children to be accepted here on Earth and be able to live here, and their children and their grandchildren. And I'd like for them not to experience what Black Americans experience. I don't think it goes on as much in Australia. I'm sure some of it does, but we like different cultures. Yeah. But just for that example, if our brothers and sisters are treated that way, like they are in the States, then how on earth would they treat greys?
Yeah, well, you look at the whole history of the human race from Stone Ages to, you know, human sacrifices, slavery, all that sort of stuff.
Captain Cook and the Aborigines.
Yeah, look, it's a horrible history, and look, the only thing we can do is make it better. Like I'm not going to go into the whole woke thing there. There's parts there I don't want to get into, but you know, all I want is everyone to be peaceful, happy, respectful of each other. None of this bullying bullshit that goes on. No one needs to be laughed at. Like if someone's genuine, then you know, respect them and treat them.
They're not going to stand there and put up with the nonsense if they're not genuine, because why would you put yourself through it?
Yeah, well, that's right. You know, like obviously you can have a laugh, because you got to have a sense of humour in life, but it has to be in the right context.
That's right.
So, and that's the biggest thing I want to try and keep pushing out there, like respect people in the right context, and you know, the human race could be a lot better.
The other thing is I'm sitting in the middle of this, and when I came out, there was a different generation that is starting to fade away that did interviews, they decided if you were their case, or they decided if you were genuine or if you weren't. And if they didn't decide it, then you weren't real. Whereas that's now slipping away, and there's more blokes like you, I think of two more that you'd really like, coming out, approaching it in a different way, and I think it is slowly changing.
Yeah. No, look, it's coming in a good way. It's definitely getting that way. Very slowly, though.
Yeah.
But,
Well, we can only do what we can do, and we have to do what we believe to be right.
Yeah, that's fair enough too. That's a fair point. But like, over the years we've been sort of waiting for this big disclosure thing, and then you have, like you said, mentioned earlier, the Americans came out with their, the media's come out with it. Americans have come out with it saying, look, these things are out there. We don't know what they are, but they're there. They're well above our technology.
It's a lie. They know exactly what they are.
Oh, yeah, of course. But,
they know who drives them and what they look like and what their names are.
Yeah. But the fact that they've, admitted to the open public that's the breaking point, and that's what everyone's been waiting for, but yet it still has that stigma attached to it.
Yeah, it does.
So
it may for a few generations, but eventually it'll get better. Yeah. And also I think of things like the suffragettes. Women have only had the vote for just over 100 years, and those women had to suffer so much to get what's now going backwards, equal rights for women.
Yeah.
And then another example for this relates to this is Captain Cook thought the Aborigines were demons, and the Aborigines thought Captain Cook and his men were ghosts.
Yeah.
So white and black. Look, you're both the same, idiots.
Yep. No, we all bleed the same. We're all the same underneath, eh?
So it's just like that with aliens. I think they're monsters. They're scary. They're this, they're that. They're not. Yes, there's trauma involved in the whole medical experiment, but I like them. I like the whole race a lot. I think they're much nicer than humans. They've treated me very well, and I've got to say that. They're very kind to me. Whenever I ask a question, they answer. They don't give me any information I don't ask for. It's the way they think. They're kind of black and white.
Yep, straightforward.
I even remember a time I was frightened or hurt, and Grandpa Graham's stroking my arm like that. So, there's kindness there. I think that they'll be good for the planet. They've got a lot to offer us if we would just open our arms and share instead of this is mine stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, 100% agree on that.
We're going to want another planet soon anyway, so we're going to... What we've begun with the Mars thing is identical to what the Greys are doing. They're just a lot further ahead.
Yeah, and completely different world to what we're trying to do to Mars, where ours is uninhabited, so...
Yeah, well, we don't know, do we? But,
that's another thing. There you go, there's another speculation.
I know. I'm trying to find other planets to live, and that's all the Greys are doing here.
Yeah.
They don't want to hurt us. They just want to share. Our planet is beautiful, and why can't we be friends?
Yeah, that's it. So, look, I think we should end it there because we're well and truly over time now. So, but look, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been fantastic having you on here, and obviously there's so much more to cover. So, we'd love to have you back on the show again at some point.
Thank you. Well, you're doing a good thing putting all these stories out there too.
Oh, look, I think it's more kudos to you there for helping all these people over the years and supporting them. That's where the biggest support is. I'm only just putting it out there, opening up the reality to these things here, but I think the people that, like yourself, that I interview is doing all the hard yards there and actually helping people through this. So
we're all links in the chain.
It is. That's true. So
and it's a team thing.
Absolutely, it definitely is. Well, again, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks.
It's fantastic having you on here. It's great. So we'll leave it to it, and I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, thanks.
See ya.
Bye.
And that will do it, folks, for this episode of Encounters Down Under. I hope you enjoyed the show, and remember, you can also get involved in the show by joining the Facebook page and getting in on the live streams. Also, please be sure to share with your friends and family to help us grow and potentially find our next guest on the show. If you or you know someone who has had an encounter, please get in touch with me through our Facebook page via Messenger or email at australianUFOsightings@outlook.com.au. I look forward to seeing you on the next Encounter Down Under. Hooroo!